Hello everyone and welcome to another tutorial in the Zap Team series on airport development. Today we're going to be taking a quick look at bringing your terrain into Blender and then back into Unity once you grab the OSM buildings. So this is assuming you've already got your terrain and you've sculpted it how you want. So you can see I've got mountains in the background, but this airport area is flat. But we still want to add OSM buildings in that conform to the new flattened area and the elevated heights around the outside. So this is still just a small 10-kilometer area. There's a lot of buildings here in Sao Paulo, so we don't want to run the risk of crashing Blender. Still might have some issues, but we'll see how it goes. This is a pretty densely packed area. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Tools, Terraland, and we're going to click Terrain. I'm just going to move this over here. Right here where it says Terrain Chunks, we'll grab our current terrain. We're going to just go down here and we can actually minimize all of this. But what we're looking for is here at the bottom, terrain to mesh, triangles, and full. Make sure this is unchecked for place in the scene, and then convert terrain to mesh. We can go ahead and find where we want to save it. I'm going to put it in here. And it'll save as an OBJ. Make sure that when this high vertex count pops up, you click yes, which will be the option on the right. And we'll give it just a moment to do its thing.
Eventually.
So I was just going to go rifle through my asset folder, but I found a smarter way to do this in the past. And if you're like me and use one project file for all your airports with the downloads, I'm going to show you a quick little trick how to find your what we're looking for very easily. All it requires is clicking on one of our terrains and just clicking this box, and you'll see the date that we're looking for, and then we can just right click here and show an explorer. And that'll get us exactly what we're looking for. And I want in here in the satellite images, you'll scroll to the bottom until you find terraininfo.tops. You can just open this in Notepad. I've already assigned it to do so. I'll pull it here. And what we're looking for is these arbitrary coordinates right here. This is what we're going to feed into BLOSM to define our exact terrain size so that it scales appropriately for the buildings. So I'm just going to keep this on my second window. Not important to have open, so I can easily copy it. And we don't need that anymore. So now that that's finished, wrong one. We'll go into where we keep our export. I put it inside assets, airports, SPGR, and then I made a folder called terrain. Here it is. Make sure it's the correct size so that exported properly with no issues. I'm going to copy that. And I already have a folder in my Blender's working directory. You can store this kind of wherever, but I keep them organized here in a working directory inside my Blender. So we're just going to move this over, and you can see it's a fairly large, chunky piece of terrain, which is good, but just takes a little longer to move. There we go. And we'll come right back to that later. We don't actually need to bring this terrain back into Unity because it's already in Unity. We're just looking to grab the OSM buildings and bring those in. So I'm going to quickly create a new folder for later called models, and that's where we're going to bring our OSM buildings over. We can start prepping our Blender scene. One thing that I always do is change the view and just up the end number, put a couple digits, put clip start up to 10. That lets us zoom out quite a bit more in preparation for our terrain. So, first things first, we're going to go to File, Import, Wavefront, which is an OBJ file. We are going to go find our Blender's working directory. And we're going to grab our terrain file, import Wavefront OBJ. We'll give that a moment to open. And since it's a fairly large file, this might take a little bit. There we go. Zoomed out a little farther. First thing is first that we want to do, right click, set origin, geometry to origin. We'll completely center this in our scene file. We do not need it to be offset. And you can see it's got these few chunky blocks with the height elevation. So what we want to do first and foremost is Control S. And we're just going to go ahead and save. Save our Blender file. This will be important to ensure we don't lose progress if it crashes or we need to close Blender out. And also, so we don't have to re-import this. Here we go. So, first things first, we do need to clean this up, because if we leave this clipping edge, it's going to try to mold buildings potentially to it, especially if it's on the other side. So, we're going to click Modeling, and we'll let it load. There we go. First things first, because Blender's weird, we do actually have to reset our camera again. There we go. So that'll let us zoom out here. And what I want to do is come to this side. Up at this top left corner near edit mode, we're going to change our select mode to face mode. And I want to select stuff that's here in the middle. There we go. I'm going to try this. So select similar, normal. This might take extra long to load.
A few moments later.
I click the delete key. If you don't have a delete key, right click, delete faces. I'll wait for it to clear those out. And we're going to do this one more time on the back side, because this is only going to select this side. We want to do the other side, and then this little trim here we're also going to do, but we're going to do something slightly different than normal. So let's do this side real quick. Select similar, normal. Let Blender do its thing one more time. Right click. And we're going to delete faces. Let it do its thing one more time. There we go. We're going to select all this. First time I've seen one of these corners pop up like this. So I'm actually going to select this by itself. Assuming that that's a face, we'll just delete it. There we go. Alright, now let's select these bottom ones. Select similar, we're going to do coplanar. That should select this entire little bracket. Delete faces. There we go. So now that that's finished, we can click back into layout. So we are done with the quote-unquote modeling aspect. This looks fairly rough. It's not look like it was supposed to. Go ahead and save it though, just to make sure our file is good to go. There we go. Alright, so now that we have our terrain and all that set up, what I'd like to do is come over here to the BLOSM, and now we're going to fetch those arbitrary coordinates that we got from Notepad. We're just going to go around counterclockwise, inputting our 4 coordinates. Alright, first things first, now that we have our coordinates, we're going to drag our terrain right here to where it says terrain. Make sure it's selected as the object. It should be set to OpenStreetMap. Import for export, buildings, import force, off, import a single object. Depending on how you do this and what your plans are, you might want to uncheck this. I'm going to leave it a single object for now. It'll be a lot easier for exporting. But if you want to clean up specific buildings or merge together, you know, I'll go ahead and show you it. This is probably going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you, but we'll do none because I do want to show you something with that. You can uncheck relative to initial import because we didn't import the terrain. And this is going to take presumably quite a while, but we'll go ahead and hit the import button and see what happens. And I'll be back when it does something. I'm surprised it did not take as long as I thought it would, and it generated a ton of buildings. Though, kinda strange the way it put them. It looks correct, but also mildly off. In any case, just toggle that off if you don't want that misty blue. So, now what we're gonna do is I'm going to turn off my terrain for a moment. I'm just gonna verify something. So I'm looking for this complex, a little bit over here, a little bit over there. So I'm looking to grab these buildings here. And grab those buildings as well. And probably a good idea to grab these. Yeah. So that should, for the most part, be my main buildings. Let's see. On the opposite side. go ahead and grab those. Alright, so now that we have those, I want to right click, move to collection, new collection. I'll just call it that. So that has its own thing. I'm going to toggle that off. And so for the rest of this, I'm going to click on one building. I'm going to just click A on the keyboard to highlight everything. And then I'm going to right click. And before I do this, so I don't crash anything, I'm just going to click save. Sometimes this takes an extra long time to do this, but what we're going to do is we have basically removed our hero assets, or our main terminal complex, and some potential outlying buildings. And alright, let's do it again. So click on one, A, we're going to right click, or you can click Control J for join. It's going to take a little while. But, or not. This is apparently a rather compressed airport. But what we're doing is we are effectively simplifying this back geometry to just one giant object to make it easier on Unity to load. And I'm going to go ahead and do a little reorganizing here. You don't have to do this part. This is just me being me. So we can hide the terrain. So first things first, we're going to actually toggle off our back assets. We are going to file, export as an FBX. Call it whatever you want, something you'll recognize and that differs from the other one. In the operator presets, we're going to go to path mode, copy, click this little box next to it so it turns blue. This is for the embedded textures. And I'm going to do selected objects because I've selected everything. You can also, if you're doing what I'm doing in the hierarchy, you can also do visible objects or active collection. And then we're just going to click export. And we can verify that it has indeed exported with an appropriate size. So toggle that off. Toggle on our low export FBX. This will save everything. We'll just rename it. Path, copy, selected objects, export FBX. Once again, verify it's there. Good. You can go ahead and copy both of those, bring them back in, stick them in the models folder we made before. One more time, we can save our scene just in case we have to come back and edit any particular buildings or in re-export. Once doing that, come back into Unity and let it import the objects we just added. First things first, I want to create an empty game object. I'm going to name it like this, so this is top of the hierarchy. You can sort however you want. You can go back to Assets, Airports, go to SBGR, Models. And I'm going to start with the high objects, which is our main terminal. I already know I'm going to have to flip them on the 180. And we're just going to line them up best as we can. There we go. Well, strange I got the height wrong in a few of these places, but it's okay for now. Alright, we'll go ahead and do our low buildings. It's appear to be slightly off. So our job is just to ensure that we, find a building we can utilize somewhere. So some people pointing me. There we go. It feels like it's quite a bit off, but that's okay. There we go. So we have some of our OSM buildings. I'm not sure why the height decided to be a bit wild. Sometimes when you're doing this, it'll take a couple tries to get the buildings correctly adjusted. This is just showing you how to do it, not how to get it right. Because as you can see, some of these buildings decided to be a bit funky. I'm not entirely certain as to why they decided to do that. Appears the terrain might have been inverted somehow. In any case, things to work with later. So that is how you get your OSM buildings into, or from Unity to Blender, get your BLOSM buildings lined up with your terrain, and how to bring it back in. If there's any questions, make sure to ask on the Discord. As you can see, though, with the way we split this, the other one you can't adjust, but this one you can. You can do that. So you can neatly edit or remove buildings as you need, just not with the outer ones unless you bring them in as a multiple objects, which will cause quite some lag when you're trying to do that. So that's why trying to get the height difference correct. In any case, good luck, happy development, and thanks for watching.